All right, so hello everyone. Thanks again for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and kick some things off. So, first, for some introductions, my name is Alec, and I'm a technical account manager here at Accelo. I've been with the company a little under a year at this point, and I'm a part of our customer success team. I'm really excited to be co hosting our second live training webinar, and which we hope will be another great value add to all of our Accelo users and clients. Today, I'm also joined by Josh, who is one of our product experts here at Accelo. Josh is an implementation manager, and he's been with Accelo for almost 3 years now as part of our customer success team. So if you were part of our first webinar, you'll know that we've structured the series a little bit differently. All the areas that we'll be covering in these live training sessions are actual use cases that our clients have asked us during expert services sessions. And I'm sure many of you have heard of Accelo's expert services before, and I'll spend a little bit more time today kind of just explaining how they work towards the end of the session. But the purpose of this particular webinar is to dig into the various scheduling and resourcing components of Accelo, and also to explain some best practices for using them inside of the system. It's a really popular topic covered during expert services and a really important piece of functionality inside of Accelo for all of our clients, particularly for project managers and team leads. So the topics that we're going to be covering today are visible on the slide right now, but for reference, they are auto-scheduled time, understanding the booking tool, scheduling versus committing time, navigating the team's schedule tool, and utilizing the schedule dashboard. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that if you have any questions along the way, please go ahead and add them into the Zoom chat function. We're going to try to answer all of the questions during the session and then also at the live Q&A at the end, but we definitely won't be able to get to all of them, but do not worry because we're going to be responding to every single question via email after the session. So we highly encourage you to post those questions because we want to make sure that you get the most out of this as you possibly can. All right, so let's go ahead and kick the session off by setting the scene here. So all of you on the call come from varying industries and backgrounds and run completely different projects. So we thought it would make the most sense to set up a demo project for us to walk through today and go through some examples. Now, I hope that some of you are fans of The Office, the TV show, because we're going to be walking through an example based on the episode of Dunder Mifflin's Christmas Party. With the date of the party rapidly approaching, there's still a lot of work left to do for the party planning committee on top of everyone's regular billable client work. Now, luckily, Dunder Mifflin has been using Accelo for several months now to better manage their scheduling and capacity planning. All right, so looking into the project that we have on the screen right now, we can see the breakdown of tasks, assignees, and total estimated time and budgets. However, what we can see here is that Accelo is showing some purple auto-scheduled time for the overall project and the individual tasks. So, Josh, would you be able to explain to us what this is, how it works, and why Accelo is doing this for us?
Yeah, thanks, Alec. Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. So as he mentioned, we've set up an internal project here for Dunder Mifflin's Office Christmas Party. We have tasks assigned out to various users and characters from the show. And everybody might notice that on the middle left side of a project page, you see a bunch of purple. Now, this is known as auto-scheduled work. If you're a new user to Accelo, or just getting started using Accelo for scheduling or resourcing, then the concept of auto-scheduled time can sometimes be a little confusing to wrap your head around. But it's basically this purple color, and we see it over and over again within the system. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these tasks that have been assigned out. The first one is to prepare the Christmas tree. This is a task specifically assigned to Dwight. So let's pull it up. To start from the top, auto-scheduling is a function built into tasks, and tasks only, regardless of whether the task is on a project, a ticket, a retainer, or anything else. Now, tasks in Accelo have a start date when the task is to be started on, and a due date when the task is to be completed by. The difference between these two dates is the task's estimated duration. Within tasks, you can set an estimated amount of time for how long the task should ideally take the assignee to complete. As an example here, the task can be set to have a duration of 15 working days, but an actual working time of 10 hours. This means that over the next 15 working days, you should plan to complete 10 hours worth of work for this specific task. Now, as you log time against a task, the estimated time will decrease as there is now less time required to complete the work. Accelo's auto-scheduled time uses the task's remaining time and splits it up equally over the total duration. Note that this only appears once the work object is listed as active. So this project has already been activated, hence we're able to see auto-scheduled work. If the project is still sitting in a planned status, then there is no auto-scheduled work yet because these tasks are not considered to be a part of an active object. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We have this task pulled up. The task has its own booking modal. So that's found on the middle side on the left as well. And we can see a bunch of auto-scheduled work that's 4 hours and 54 minutes currently assigned to Dwight. So let's learn a little bit more about how auto-scheduled time works within the system. And to do so, we'll use a handy activity template. So I'm going to create an activity right here and apply a pre-made template. This is a good chart that's going to break down how auto-scheduled time works in the system. One of the other tasks is actually 10 hours of work that's been assigned to our receptionist, Pam Beasley. Now, this task is to do all of the caterer research, the vendor research for the upcoming Christmas party. Now, on Monday, this task was assigned out to Pam. It's 10 hours, and Pam is working a full work week. So we're going to take those 10 hours of time and divide that equally across her available working days. So from Monday till Friday, Pam actually gets 2 hours of time allocated based on auto-scheduled work on her schedule. Now, obviously working on tasks is not an exact science. We are all humans. We don't do things in exact increments, but it's still a very useful tool as Accelo is able to predict how busy Pam is based on tasks that are assigned to her and durations that are in place. So again, she gets 2 hours each day. Now, nobody's perfect. Monday might go by. Pam is a busy receptionist. She might not have time to do any research on the vendor or caterer. So in that case, we'll still take the remaining 10 hours and divide that across her remaining workdays. So that's Tuesday till Friday. She's going to get 2.5 hours on her plate instead. So notice how it's starting to stack up as she's not able to address this task. Now, let's say the whole week goes by. She's completely busy with her regular day job. So all of that time will be allocated on Monday instead. Keep in mind, we will respect your holidays as well as weekends within the system. So we are purposefully skipping Saturday and Sunday. However, the full weight of that 10-hour task is now going to be placed on the next available day, which is Pam's Monday. We're assuming she has other work already, and she has an 8-hour cap. So on her scheduled dashboard, which we'll see later, she's going to have 10 hours at least on Monday, which is sort of hard to do. Unless she works overtime, she's probably better off just pushing off that task and extending the deadline further. So let's go ahead and save that note over here. Now, auto-scheduled time is signified by that purple color across all of Accelo. This is a key example. It's seen within your schedules, timesheets, task windows, and many other areas too. Now, the task must always have an assignee. Notice that this is assigned to Dwight, so it works. The assignee for the auto-scheduled time requires the person to be listed here so that it can be applied to their schedule. Ultimately, auto-scheduled time is Accelo trying to help by putting whatever time is left on your task onto the assignee's schedule so that the work is completed on time every time. But of course, you do have the ability to override the auto-scheduled time or hide it from screens if you don't wish to see it.
All right, that's really helpful, Josh. Thank you for that information. So you mentioned being able to override the purple auto schedule time that we're seeing. What are the methods to remove this time from tasks if we wanted to do that?
Yes, that's a great question, Alec. And again, since auto schedule time is the system automatically trying to be helpful, there are several ways that you can also remove it from a task. First, the task is active but has no remaining time. Maybe you've already used all that time or allocated it somewhere else. All the time that has been estimated has already been used. Accelo therefore doesn't have any more time left to auto schedule, and we will not see any more purple time for that task. Now, the active task could also be marked as complete. So the status can be adjusted. When you're completing the task, it stops any further auto scheduling as the remaining time has been removed. Now, managers or task assignees could also manually schedule the work themselves through the schedule or commit tools. Now, these are alternative options using the bookings modal. You may have seen these other colors across Accelo's tools where you've seen the purple auto schedule time. Those colors are yellow for scheduled time or blue for committed time. And we can see a bit of that in the booking modal as well for the project on the left-hand side. Now, let's take a look at this. By scheduling or committing this work manually, these versions of time will override the auto scheduled time set by Accelo and place a hold on your schedule within the system.
Okay, that makes sense. Josh, would you be able to explain the difference between scheduling versus committing work in Accelo and demonstrate some of the ways that you can manually schedule or commit time on tasks so that they appear in users' Accelo schedules?
Yeah, I'm really glad you've asked that. So both methods of scheduling and committing are similar to one another in the sense that they will block out time on your Accelo schedule. The difference is whether you have a confirmed time block defined, how that time is displayed, and whether the time pushes to your integrated calendar. So let's go back to that task we had pulled up to working on ordering the Christmas tree. So this is a task that's been assigned to Dwight. Now, let's say that for the same 5-hour task, you'd like to block off about 1 hour on Thursday between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And there's a clear date and time defined for when you will actually do this work. Accelo specifies this booking as scheduled time. If you have your calendar integration set up with Google or Microsoft 365, then that scheduled time booking will push to your calendar as well. Now, for this specific example, again, getting the Christmas tree, this is a job that's been allocated to Dwight. And if you all remember from this episode, Dwight actually ends up purchasing a massive, massive tree. I think like a 10-footer that is so heavy he can't even carry it into the office on his own. This would be the perfect opportunity to add a booking. So let's click the add booking option over here. This is effectively creating a meeting, a hold on a specific time on his calendar. So let's say he knows that he will need help carrying in the Christmas tree. Now let's add Dwight so that this shows up directly on his calendar. And if I recall correctly, we needed Michael Scott to help carry in the tail end of the tree. So we'll create a meeting, that way they're both aware and they can both work on this. Keep in mind whenever you're creating a scheduled meeting in Accelo that syncs to your external calendar, you can also apply a range. Now, this is useful if you'd like to create a recurring meeting, let's say a daily stand-up or a bi-weekly stand-up. This can be created based on a range of 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months. That's ultimately up to you. And then you can decide the time frame. So it's a little later in the day, 5 to 6 p.m. But if I want to book that time every Thursday and every Tuesday, that's ultimately up to me. But using this example, we don't need a range of dates. We just need a specific time frame. So let's select today from 5 to 6 p.m. We'll have both of these guys available for the hour, and we'll schedule that time directly on this task. That way, Dwight will have that extra help. Michael will know based on his calendar that he needs to help carry in this Christmas tree. Now, alternatively, let's say that you know that you're going to work on this 5-hour task for another hour, let's say on Friday, but when exactly on Friday is not yet defined. So that you can have this time block appear within your Accelo schedule, you go ahead and commit the time instead. Now, committing the time does not push to your integrated calendar as there is no specified defined time. So that's the alternative that we're seeing here. On the add booking option, I can actually commit instead of scheduling time. And this works in the same way. I can establish a range, so it can be 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, but I do have to select a specific user. So let's go ahead and select Kevin Malone. Now, if we were working on something, let's say Kevin's taking an Excel class. This is something that he's doing on the side to be a better accountant. He still has his regular day-to-day accounting work, but maybe Oscar wants him to commit every Friday afternoon for 2 hours. But it's whenever he has the chance to really work on this. So he can create a reoccurring booking every Friday as a commitment, right? If he has time, he will log time against this class. It's a good way to really block out some time and know that you're responsible for this, but you still have ultimately the flexibility of working on this whenever you're not in a meeting or somewhere more important. But for the sake of this narrative, we don't need a range commitment because we need Kevin's help to actually trim this tree down. It's over 10 feet tall. So if I recall correctly, he used the paper cutter to cut this down to size. So let's actually commit 30 minutes, because he's busy over in accounting, but he does want to help. Even though this isn't his task, let's commit half an hour of his time and we'll call it a day. Now, there are multiple ways to actually schedule and commit time within Accelo. You can use the activity to schedule a meeting. You can use the booking tool against the task within the project or from any other area in Accelo, such as the task boards or task list. You can actually access the feature from pretty much any object in Accelo that touches tasks. So let me show you some of them. Adding an activity is as simple as pulling the activity screen up, clicking on meeting, and this is the same thing as scheduling time because it will create a meeting, block off that time, and it's going to sync back and forth with your external calendar. Notice that you can also access the same things with the projects bookings modal. So I can create a booking right from this screen as well. Also, if you look at the individual task line items against the project under actions on the far right side, the more dropdown also allows me to schedule bookings, commit bookings, and split tasks all together. Keep in mind, if I want to access my task lists up here, I can access a list of all my tasks. I can also pull up my task board, and both of these views will also allow me to schedule time and commit time. Speaking of task boards, I have mine pulled up right here, and I have task tiles representing all the work I have to do, both client-facing and internal. And if I was to access any one of these tasks, I can add a booking again right from the task itself. Now, it's also useful to know that using my daily timesheet, which is found under Time Daily Timesheet, you can pull up a list of all the work that you have logged today, but also a suggestion box on the right for any work. This is actually a feature that a lot of users tend to overlook. The My Work section on the right will show any time that you're committed to, that you have auto-scheduled time, or that's just listed in the future. This is really important because if you have any committed time, you might not actually have that time assigned to you as a task. It's just something that you're helping out with, such as seeing Kevin assist with the tree. So looking at Dwight's daily timesheet, I can see a whole bunch of time that he's committed for, auto-scheduled time, etc. You can see a breakdown of what he's committed for, and you can quickly log time straight from this screen as well. You can also use the team scheduling tool and schedule dashboard to work all of these functions. We'll cover this together shortly.
All right. Thank you, Josh. So as a project manager or a team lead, being able to see the schedules of your team members is critical for resource allocation and for scheduling of work. You just mentioned some scheduling tools. So could you walk us through the team scheduling capability?
Yeah, absolutely. We highly recommend using the team scheduling tool, especially if you're scheduling your resources for a specific project. So to find that team scheduling tool dedicated to this project, I can just pull the tools dropdown from the project and click on schedule work. Now, keep in mind that I can just as easily find this page by hovering over schedule and clicking on team scheduling. It takes you to the exact same place. Now, you can access the team scheduling tool in the same way from the tools tab. And for this project example, we can see that all the tasks have been clearly identified on the panel on the left. Each task has that purple auto scheduled time that we've talked about showing, along with the task's start date, due date, and estimated time remaining. Now, on the right-hand panel, we can see our team resources, along with their availability and capacity for any given day of the week. Now, anytime that is already allocated to a user's schedule is clearly identified. That's showing in yellow for schedule time, blue for committed time, or purple for auto schedule time. It's also worth noting that since we're later in the week, folks have logged billable time, and that's showing up in green. Now, that line that we're seeing across all users identifies a user's capacity for that day. Here we can see that all users have a standard 8-hour workday that they can be scheduled to work. Now, keep in mind that that line can be adjusted per user. So let's say you're only working part-time, that's 4 hours, you might have that line adjusted. So let's take a look at this panel on the left side. It's allowing me to pull up a list of all tasks in the system. Now that can be across projects, tickets, sales, or retainer periods. They are all listed here. We're already looking at a bunch of tasks that belong to this specific project we were looking at. However, if I want to pull up a view of all tasks and pull this edit filters dropdown, this allows me to search specifically for tasks that might belong to a certain company, might be created by a specific user, belong to a certain due date, might be against a specific milestone or project, has a certain standing, etc. So what we're going to do right now is actually narrow this down. Let's only pull up tasks that belong to Dunder Mifflin internal, just to keep this example simpler. And then scrolling down, I can see a list of all my tasks and the respective users. This tool is ideal for assigning out work in the same spirit of the booking modal. So I can pull out all the tasks that need to be done. And then I can compare this to everybody's schedules. So let's start to look at Friday, right? We can see that it looks like Angela and Pam both have certain openings. So this caterer and vendor research task has been pretty heavy. If I want to drag and drop it onto Pam's Friday, for instance, we can see that she's already the owner, but I can further commit time and schedule time for her to work on this. Project managers can easily select and drag a task from the left side onto the schedule of the user on the right. You'll be prompted to schedule or commit this time for the user, and a booking tool window will show up as seen right now. So let's go ahead and commit some of her time. We really need to get this done because Christmas is coming up. So we'll commit an additional 3 hours of her time, and that's going to show up in blue, right? Now, that doesn't mean she's the only one that can work on this. We can take the same task and drag it out to Angela, since she looks like she has an opening on Friday. If a task has more time remaining and the assignee is just not able to complete it on time, we can always just drag that same task and schedule it to multiple users. This can be very handy if a task deadline is quickly approaching. So this method does allow us to split the task into two. So I can reassign this all together to Angela if Pam's not getting it done, but what's preferable is probably to split this because this is caterer and vendor research. It's 10 hours worth of work. Maybe the vendor research portion should just be done by Angela. We can quickly reassign the task to another user altogether if both people are too busy. So let's go ahead and we'll split this task and we'll call it a day.
All right. Thanks very much, Josh. So I can see how using the team scheduling tool is a great way for managers to see their team's availability or to schedule out work quickly across the board. But from an overall business perspective, what benefits does the schedule dashboard provide to us?
Yeah, the schedule dashboard is an excellent view that can be used in conjunction with this tool. Just to wrap this up, not only can we see this from a daily view, but if you'd prefer to look at capacity by weeks, that's also possible. You can just toggle this on the left to view this by week. You can also break this by the individual color that we were talking about in terms of the work type. So looking at this colorful situation, why don't we click on Pam's Friday over here, and we can see a breakdown of her current allocation. So we have a bunch of scheduled time for certain tasks, committed time that we've just placed, And then we have that remaining auto schedule time, which we've also talked about. That's the system being helpful. Now all this can come together directly via the schedule dashboard, which is typically used in conjunction with this tool. So that's found under schedule dashboard, and it takes you directly to this page. Now, the schedule dashboard gives you a bird's eye view of the business in terms of their schedules, availability, and capacity. You can clearly identify work that is upcoming in busy periods over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. And this dashboard will also provide actual utilization per day or week, depending on which you filter by, whereby you can see if a team member is overutilized in red or needs more work scheduled for them. That's if you're looking at a lighter green box. The dark green box will signify complete utilization. So let's take a look at this. We have all our various characters listed out here. The scheduled dashboard is essentially a heat map, right? Showing you your busier days and when you've got availability. So for instance, looking at Dwight, we have a couple of busy days. Today's a particularly busy day, but things seem to thin out leading into Christmas. So maybe starting the week of the 14th, Dwight can pick up a bunch of new prospecting calls to reach out to those folks. Looking at this, we will respect your holidays. So Christmas and New Year's / any personal days that you've taken will be marked with this little airplane icon. And contrary to popular belief, Michael Scott actually does work a ton towards the end of Q4. We can see that he has a couple of weeks where he's got 8-hour and 48-minute days. So definitely pretty busy, all things considered, right? So taking a look at this, you might be wondering, hey, why do we have those exact increments? Phyllis has several working days where she has 2 hours and 31 minutes per day. Now that goes back to the concept of auto scheduling. Phyllis must have a task where divided across the duration of her available working days, she's going to get 2 hours and 31 minutes exactly. She probably won't work for exactly 2 hours and 31 minutes, but it's a good way to assess how busy she is, because looking forward into the future, we can decide when a user can take on a new project based on this breakdown. That's looking at it based on users. We can also flip this view to look at it from a weekly perspective instead. Going to the future, this is great for capacity planning, seeing who can pick up new projects and new business if you're on the sales team. We can also narrow this down by the specific status of the task if we want to search by a certain rate, type of time. That's all available here. Also, this heat map is customizable. If I want to change the color, even change my schedule icon, set it to martini glass, that's totally up to you. That's the ideal view, looking at this by user. You can also search this by group of employees, skill sets if you're a larger company. The alternative view is to look at this from the work view instead. So I can pull up specific projects. So why don't we add a combination of this office Christmas party and some client-facing work. I can see a breakdown of how this work time is all being distributed. So let's expand those over here, and we can see where the work is being allocated on a task level. So how is this work being spread out all the way into completion? Maybe it's not the best time to pick up a new project. This is viewing it from the task view. I can also view it by user instead. So I can see a breakdown and how this work is being spread out per user. Go back to the team view for a moment. We recommend setting a utilization expectation of about 80 to 90%, as we know that it's impossible for a team member to really be scheduled back to back for 8 hours every day, unless they don't take any bathroom breaks or lunch. That would make for a rather difficult day. So why don't we drill down into a specific day and see the breakdown. By selecting a specific day for a user, we can break down all the work that they have scheduled, committed, auto-scheduled, and any external appointments that are pulling in from their integrated calendar. So let's use a couple of examples. If we look at Michael Scott's 8-hour and 48-minute day, we can see that he has a ton of client work that's happening here. He's overutilized, overworked at 110%. We can see that there's this auto-scheduled time here, which we can directly convert. We can also directly book time from any of these sections. So if I see a task and I'd like to schedule or commit some time for Michael Scott to work on this, that can be done straight from the schedule dashboard as well. So keep that in mind. But let's look for a more well-balanced day. Phyllis's day today, she's 88% utilized. This is probably what you want to strive for altogether. And we can see it's from a combination of client work with Sabre printers, and we can see the breakdown down to the individual tasks, as well as helping out with her Secret Santa task for the Dunder Mifflin office Christmas party. So this is a great breakdown over here. We can see the value that she's bringing in, her total time, that's 7 hours and 1 minute. She's 88% utilized today, which is pretty ideal, all things considered. So just to end this here, the scheduled dashboard is very flexible and customizable and a really valuable tool for seeing the breakdown of work across your teams or your business as a whole.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Josh. So what you see today is an example of how an expert services session might run. Expert services are open and really collaborative discussions specific to the topics that you need support with. They're customized to help you solve problems or optimize processes that are unique to your business. Some examples of what could be covered in these sessions include assistance when you need to tackle some challenges and find some quick resolutions to things, detailed account audits to improve and optimize your configuration and workflows. And then, of course, advanced end user training focused solely on the topics that are most important to your team. So if you're interested in finding out more about expert services, you can email success@accelo.com, and an account manager such as myself will arrange a 30-minute, no obligation scoping call to understand your challenges and propose recommended solutions to resolve them. You can also find more information about this on our Success Services webpage, which is located at the bottom of this slide. And for reference, that is www.accelo.com/resources/services. Okay, so I think it's time for some Q&A. We've seen some questions come through the Zoom chat, so we're going to pull some of them out for us to discuss. Just give me a second here. Okay. Let's start with this one.
Awesome.
Why are we seeing a lot of exact increments of time on the scheduled dashboard, like exact minute increments day by day?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're going to see a lot of that on the scheduled dashboard as a reference directly to auto scheduled time. So why don't we pull up a good example here? We might as well use Michael's busy streak, where we have 8 hours and 48 minutes. So it looks like Mr. Scott is a part of several tasks that go across the couple of weeks into late December. So he's working on several tasks that he is the assignee of. And because he has those tasks and it's spread out in this really narrow scope of time, he will have exact increments based on the auto scheduling. So we will see a lot of exact increments, 8 hours and 48 minutes, 4 hours and 12 minutes across certain time periods, depending on tasks that are assigned to you. Now, again, being human, we are not going to work on a task for exactly 4 hours and 12 minutes or 8 hours and 48 minutes, but it's still a good way to assess how busy we are, what capacity we have. As you can see, Michael probably shouldn't take on any additional projects, internal or external, during that time period. But perhaps Maddie, you can, or Kevin can, due to the auto-scheduled time and its reflection on the scheduled dashboard.
All right, thank you. Here's another one for you. Can someone adjust the estimated time remaining even if they don't log time?
The estimated time remaining, yes. So if you actually pull back to the original project, as long as you're a project manager and you have the ability to edit the project plan, you can access the remaining project budget time directly from the individual task. So you can edit your budgets right from here. Or what's even preferable is if you edit the project plan itself, you can pull up the specific task and adjust the budget. This will obviously have a direct impact on the auto scheduled time that is available because you are directly controlling the budget of this individual task.
Okay, so where can I see the actual meetings, so dates and times that they have been scheduled for on the task level?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can see those in a couple of places, mostly a stream. So looking at this project specifically, if I was to click on the stream, I could see any upcoming meetings. These are things that we've actually created bookings for today, right? So carrying the Christmas tree, the all hands emergency meeting, etc. Those are all listed here. But to pull up a specific task, such as preparing the Christmas tree, and to click on the stream, I can track any scheduled bookings right from here. So these are meetings that we've previously made.
All right, thank you for that. Here's another one for you. Why can I see tasks with 0 time left as auto scheduled in the team scheduling tool?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes tasks will show up in the team scheduling tool. If auto scheduled time typically relies on time budgets that are remaining. So tasks shouldn't really be showing up on the team scheduling tool. If that's the case, they will still show up on your task boards because as the assignee of the task, you are still the owner, even if the budget reaches 0. There might be something else within that task's budget if the auto schedule time is showing. Perhaps the budget had been changed, but we're happy to take a closer look to see that particular use case offline.
Okay. Here's one more. Can scheduling or auto scheduling be used for tickets as well?
Yes, scheduling and auto scheduling can be used wherever there's a task in the system. So that includes things that you might not think of, like ticketing tasks, sales tasks, retainer period tasks, or even company tasks. Anywhere that there's a task, you can apply the booking modal, which rolled out about 2 years ago now. It's best to showcase the example using projects because projects is a module in Accelo that just revolves around robust tasks and dependencies, but you can absolutely apply this same logic to a ticket. It will also reflect via your team scheduling tool and schedule dashboard.
Okay. Here's one more. Does using the split task tool divide time equally? Or
Yes.
is there a change? Oh, okay. Or
Oh,
is there a
sorry, I didn't.
change how much of the time remaining will be allotted to the user being added to the task?
Ultimately, that's within your control. The system is pretty cut and dry. When you take a specific task and you want to split it, it's going to assume that the task is large. This was a 15-hour task to decorate the building. Splitting it up with Angela creates another task that's 7.5 hours. Obviously, you can adjust the time budget with the new task. That's ultimately up to you. You don't have to split it exactly. Splitting the task is really just a good way to cut something in half if you need to share it. But as a project manager, you're also able to completely edit the project plan, create a whole new task, and shrink the previous task if you'd like. Sometimes if you like total control of the project plan, which I've seen with our own project manager here on our team, that can be better for you.
Okay. We got one more here for you, Josh. Can you remove the set 8-hour work limit for services which aren't defined by an 8-hour workday? So for example, let's say I work 10 hours today and 6 hours tomorrow. Do these need adjusting for each day, or how could we manage that?
Yeah, great question. As you can see, the work limit is really there just to be a measuring stick. It's by all means not something that's going to be enforced. We can see that Angela and Pam for today, they're going far over the specified 8 hours. It happens, right? You might have a very busy day. You might work 10 hours today. You might work 6 hours tomorrow. But this is a tool that's here to show you that you're doing that. It's not going to restrict work from being assigned to you. You can literally lower this bar though if you do have a special case. So maybe you are taking night school and you can only work for 4 hours every Thursday and Friday. You can adjust that within your own preferences in Accelo so that if Angela is taking a class, then this bar will literally be lowered for her on certain days if you're only working part-time.
Okay, thanks for that. I know that we kind of already talked about this in the webinar, but I thought it'd be good just to highlight one more time. What's an easy way to log time for work that I'm committed to if it's not going to appear on my task board?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I highly, highly recommend using the daily timesheet for this purpose because time that you're committed to, again, it's a little tricky. It shows up in blue. As you've seen, it shows up on your team scheduling tool, but I've had a lot of users mention, hey, I'm committed to this time. I'm not the assignee of the task. How am I going to remember to do it? Well, if you look at your daily timesheet and you make sure that this is ticked over here, then you're able to locate all time that you're committed for, and it makes it really easy for you to log. So as Dwight, I am committed to a bunch of tasks, both internal and both client facing, and they're all really easy to log via the daily timesheet, via the weekly timesheet. I see them over here and I can quickly log time for work that I've done. And it applies directly to my daily timeline.
All right, great. Okay, a couple more here. So this is a good one. If multiple people are logging time to a committed booking, will the rate be set to that of the task as detailed by their individual positions or overridden by the rate card?
That's a good question. It totally depends on the situation. The task could be set to only take in a specific rate. In that case, it might just be $100 an hour, regardless of who's logging time. If the task is set to run based on staff rates, then whichever rate you personally own, that's the rate that will be applied. The task could also belong to a project that falls under a retainer, and the retainer rate is the rate that's enforced. Otherwise, if the task has its own dedicated rate and a rate card commands that that rate is changed for that specific project, then it would be the rate card's rate that applies. So a lot of rules in place that can override other rules. It just depends on the situation.
All right, thanks for that. Is it the best practice to leave content as auto-scheduled, or should we strive to commit or schedule all of the tasks that are assigned?
It ultimately comes down to how you prefer to operate things as a business, right? Because auto-scheduled, I like to think of it as the least exact science when it comes to scheduling, because it's this purple time that the system just assumes that you'll eventually get around to based on your current workload. It's not going to show up on your external calendars. That's how most people tend to operate. So we always encourage that people really block out that time via schedules. If you're doing that and you're integrated with Accelo's calendar, then you have the additional option of like, hey, I have this meeting that belongs to this task. When I log time on this meeting, it comes directly out of this task already. I can bill my client for that time. The other option, which we hadn't talked about too much, falls under, let's go back to the scheduled dashboard. Looking at this view, you can view your day, not just by work, but you can also view it by category. So it shows the breakdown of the different types of time, right? Time that you're committed for, time that you're auto-scheduled for, etc. We have this additional color, external. It's not visible right now, but any time that you've blocked off, let's say in Google Calendar, it's going to come over as external. It's going to come over in this burgundy color, allowing you to convert this directly into any time in Accelo and bill for it. So folks tend to use a lot of external time. They also tend to use a lot of scheduled time. That way you can block out time periods within your day that you will work on something, get it done, and bill your client for it.
Okay. Let's do one more and then we can call it for the Q&A. So there's one here that says our team estimates their our team estimates their availability on a weekly basis, currently in an Excel spreadsheet in terms of percentage of week for each project. What's the best way to do this so the schedule dashboard shows that, for example, they are committed for 80% of the week?
So this does give you the option to view things by week instead. We recognize that certain people measure things based on week. So it's going to follow the same logic, but pull out to be an even more of a bird's eye view, right? So same principles apply. If you're going over your capacity for this week, it will show here. So Angela is 153% utilized for this time period. Looks like it's a shorter week. And if you're Michael Scott, you have a perfect balance of work. You're 95% utilized for this shorter week, right? So you can pull this out to a higher bird's eye view, so you can see if everyone has the proper amount of work for the week. That isn't as granular as the day view, right? So you might have Wednesday where you work less, and then you might have Thursday where you work overtime. That's not visible from this view. It's only looking at it from your 40-hour week perspective using this tool. Another way to view this is actually using the utilization dashboard. So if I was to pull out reports and view the utilization dashboard instead, this view isn't ready for today's presentation. So let me just pull this up. We can add in specific users directly onto this page. And then we can see from a weekly view how well utilized everybody is. Based on the types of time that they have on their plates, that's estimated time that they've already logged, we can see how much that they ought to be doing week to week. So definitely use this tool in conjunction as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh. Lots of good information there. So this brings us to the end of our live training webinar. We really hope that this was helpful for you all. So any questions that we didn't get to will be answered via email after the meeting ends within the next couple of days. I know that some of them were kind of a little bit more in depth, so we want to take those ones offline to do some research and provide you with the best answers possible. So wanted to bring your attention to the hyperlink that you're seeing on the PowerPoint right now. That hyperlink is, if you were to go type that in on your browser, that will bring you to the registration page for our next webinar that we have scheduled for January 21st, 2021, or January 22nd, 2001, for those a day ahead of the United States. The topic will be on utilizing email capture and request inboxes. We will also share the link in the recap email that we send out. So please be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I guess to round things out, we'd like to say thanks again for everyone for joining. One more thing, we're going to be sending the video recording to everyone that attended, along with a feedback survey. And within the survey, you can include topic areas that you'd like to see covered in future webinars. We have a number of them that are already kind of planned out in the back of our heads for future sessions, but we'd really like to hear from you all to understand the challenges you might be going through so that we can tackle these topics in other sessions. And once again, you'll be receiving an invitation to these future webinars, and this recording will be available on our website. That's all we have for you today. Take it easy, everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.